Hi, this is Marty Dudoff from the 13th floor. We're here today with Graeme Jeffries. Welcome, Graeme.
Thanks,
nice of
buddy.
you.
Nice
You
to be
drove
here.
up from Wellington to see us.
Yeah, it was about 8.5 hours drive, but I really like driving around New Zealand. It's kind of a cool thing.
Cool. And you brought records, which is always a good thing. So we've got the message for the Cakekitchen. Give me a little, just for folks who may not be familiar with what this record's about.
Okay, it's a reissued version of the old Flying Nun 1987 album, which came out at the same time as the last This Kind of Punishment album.
Right.
And the material on it was written during the year that This Kind of Punishment wasn't going, and then the year after that. So it's like it's culled from a couple of years worth of material. Maybe about 20 songs were considered for it, and 9 made it on, so 11 didn't. LI Records in North Carolina has reissued it and gone through a lot of trouble to bring it out. And it's kind of good to see it back in print. I was in Southbound today signing all of the stock that came in for the record so that they could sell signed copies as a sort of a launching type thing for the record itself. So it's kind of
cool.
You have to be really careful to make sure you spell Graeme properly and other things like that. You know?
But that's great. So go down to Southbound Records. You can get a signed copy of the album. So you're going to perform a few songs for us while you're here, right?
Yeah.
And you have some different instruments. Each one is going to have a different instrument, which makes it always more interesting.
Yeah, I love changing instruments, and whenever I play a show, I always play a really large amount of instruments. And I, like say, the last show at the Wine Cellar had 9 instrument changes over 17 songs or something like that.
Yeah.
In order to make it interesting for the audience, you know, for a solo performer, you can do whatever you like, but usually most people only play 1 or 2 instruments, so I try and play like maybe 4 or 5.
Okay.
Lucky I've got a big car, I suppose.
Yes,
It's just a way of trying to make it a little bit better, you know, or a little bit more interesting. I suppose the other thing I do is whenever I play live, I always play really different material from the last time I was in that town, and I document what was on the set list for each town and make sure that if someone comes along to see me again, they'll get different songs, or mostly different songs.
Cool. So we're going to start out with something more traditional, the guitar, and get ourselves warmed up. The song is called Bald Old Bear.
Yeah.
And what's the story behind that song?
That was actually, it ended up being the first Cakekitchen single, so it took us like 5 albums before we released a 7-inch. And it's special because it was the last song I managed to write in New Zealand before 12 years of living abroad, working for Rough Trade Germany. So it had this kind of last-ditch stand about it. But it's also, I suppose, when I think about the couple of hundred songs or so that I've written, I like the structure of that one better. It's taking the verse-chorus thing to bending it on its ear as much as possible, and starts off with falsetto singing and just like chords and stuff like that, you know. So it's trying to make something as different as possible out of singer-songwriter man with folk guitar singing. Right. You know, whatever they say. Yeah.
Yeah, got to keep it different. All right. Well, let's give it a listen. Then we'll come back. We've got another instrument.
Okay.
2, 3, 4.
give a damn. We don't care about your bald old bear. It's really not so charming. Couldn't give a damn. Wrote me in the mail of another form of vision, different point of view, like returning from the winter to keep one step ahead. Best to keep those bastards guessing. Put your hands over your eyes. Tell them you see nothing. They don't care about your bald old bear. It's really not so special. Couldn't give a damn. We don't care about your bald old bear. It's really not so charming. Couldn't give a damn.
All right, we're here with Graeme Jeffries. We just heard Bald Old Bear on the guitar, and you've brought, well, this next thing is on a keyboard that you've got with us. You trucked around in your car. How much room was left once you got loaded everything up?
There was enough to have a kip if I got tired. Like
Right.
I mean, it's a big car. It's an 8-seater. You know?
Right,
So
right.
it's like you can even fit the drums in there if you want. Like, but I didn't bring the drums. But there was enough room to sort of like I mean, I've gotten very good at packing it. I understand it from a cubic meterage point very well.
Right,
now.
I'm sure you do. Yeah. So why is this song being played on the keyboard?
I wrote it on the keyboard, so it's like it's a song for the album that I'm working on at the moment. So it's unreleased.
So the song is called "I Wish I Could Turn Back the Clock Like It's 1978." Just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, what else could you call it when it's got that line in it? But it was written during the first lockdown, so I think for all of us that first lockdown was a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
And it just sort of happened to come out. You know, like I live in Wellington and it rains a lot, and everyone's always cursing the rain, but the chorus line is, "and look at the rain," with a question mark or exclamation mark, depending on what you like.
Yep.
So to some extent, I couldn't resist sort of putting that in. I thought that's the only good thing about the rain in Wellington is I've used it in that song.
Yeah, you got to make the best of it.
Yeah.
And what's the significance of 1978 for you?
The 70s and 1978, I mean, it was a more free time. There was still that 60s free love. There wasn't AIDS, there wasn't swine flu, there wasn't bird flu, there wasn't COVID-19. So 1978 had a sort of magical quality. I mean, things like albums like Cheers Missing came out in 1978.
Right, yeah.
It really changed the game of punk rock. You know?
Yep.
So I guess I've got a soft spot for 1978, but in a way it's just the thing of turning back the clock before all of these disasters started happening. I mean, David Bowie was still alive in 1978 and doing great work. And it was a good time.
Yeah, it was a good time. All right, well, let's listen to the song then. Have
Okay.
ourselves a good time.
Here we go.
All right.
It's cold, the beginning of May, and I don't know when I'll see you again. The city is closed and everything's changed. Yeah, the streets are so quiet. Look at the rain. Look at the rain. Look at the rain.
I wish we could march right past like Joan of Arc and be saved from everything that's on fire, all the trouble and pain. Yeah, the streets are so quiet. And look at the rain. 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 I wish I was born. I wish I was brave. I wish we could turn back the clock like it's 1978. But the future is here, and the future looks strange. Yeah, the streets are so quiet. And look at the rain. Look at the rain. Look at the rain. Yeah, look at the rain. Look at the rain.
All right, we're here at the 13th floor with Graeme Jeffries. We just heard a song called I Wish I Could Turn Back the Clock Like It's 1978. So far unreleased, but it's coming soon, right?
Well, I'll
So-
bring out
coming
an album
eventually.
this year. Yeah, so it's like it's way ahead of the schedule.
Right.
But I just felt like playing that one. I guess that, for the release schedule, there'll be a new album out this year, and there'll also be a reissue of Stomping Through the Boneyard, the fourth Cakekitchen album, the first
great.
one with the French drummer Jean-Yves Duet,
Right.
which I managed to remix. It was the one that annoyed me the most because at the end I just ran out of money, and we only had a certain amount of money to leave leave New Zealand and get to America and get to Europe, and we just couldn't spend any more on it. So it's always bugged me a lot, and it took me about 3 years to remix it, and I remixed it 5 times before I finally decided I got it right. That one will be coming out next probably, but there'll be a new album of new songs. I've got about 20 unreleased songs, maybe slightly more.
Oh, great. Because I know you were here at the Wine Cellar not too long ago.
Yeah.
Saw you there. And so I assume you're going to be touring again once you have a new batch of tunes?
Yeah, I'm just like looking at organising a sort of just before winter or winter type series of shows, depending on when Stomping comes out. But at the moment, what I've mainly been working on is working on building a marxophone, which I found this, looking on the internet one night, I found this 100-year-old instrument called a marxophone, which is basically somebody's made these metal hammers and then put them onto a zither. So I thought, wow, I'd really like to buy one of those, but of course I haven't made them for 100 years. So I started making them myself, and for about the last month or so, I've been filing down metal and making hammers, and I've made 3 versions of a marxophone. I brought the third one along for the song I'm going to play at the end.
It looks really cool, so watch this.
Yeah, so it took me maybe a week to make the hammers, and every now and again one note would be slightly in the wrong place, so you'd have to rip it off and make another hammer and stuff like that. But it was just they're an amazing instrument, and the fact of steel hitting a zither, which is more or less a piano frame, makes an amazing sound. So in that way, that's been my pet project, and I haven't booked any shows, and I've haven't made any money really over this last month, just working on that. But
Not,
it's just
not big money in zither manufacture at the moment.
No, not at all. But I mean, maybe we can start a trend and
Why
bring
not?
it back, you know.
So
Bring
when you're
back
writing
the
songs
saxophone.
and you're playing, you have the ability to play all these different unique instruments. You thinking about what you're going to play it on when the songwriting happens, or does it go the other way around?
It goes the other way around. I'm always improvising and playing instruments for the joy of doing it, and somehow playing those instruments will instigate an idea for me. And I think, oh, okay, the last song I wrote was called Canary in a Coal Mine, and I wrote it on the zither, which is the first time I've written one on the zither, just because I happen to be working on that. So it's always from the improvisations of fiddling around with instruments, a song somehow comes out, or you get into a groove for it, or you pick up on a ley line for it, and it's in the ear somehow. So to some extent, because I can play a lot of instruments, I'm continually doodling around, and they just sort of seem to come out. Quite often, the instrument that I write the song on may not be the one that I use to record it with. Something like Don't Be Fooled by the Label was written on guitar and transposed to piano, and then when I played it live a few times, when I didn't have a piano, I put it back onto the guitar. So I started learning guitar when I was 13, and I started learning piano when I was 14. So I've always been able to transpose from one instrument to the other, and I think it's a really useful tool to be able to do like that. And also just the joy of instruments. I love instruments. You know?
Now the song we're going to hear is a thing called East Meets West, and tell me where that one came from.
That one's an old This Kind of Punishment song from A Beard of Bees, and A Beard of Bees was a very, very calculated album. Every note was demoed and recorded in advance before we actually did the sessions for it on Gordon's 4-track, except for East Meets West, which we had the concept of it had to be totally spontaneous, done exactly then. So we recorded the song and the album came out, and it never got played live with This Kind of Punishment, but when I was thinking about it a while ago, I thought, why not play that? I mean, so every time that I play it, I approach it differently. I mean, with the zither, you've only got a certain amount of keys and things like that. They're usually in the key of C and a certain amount of chords, but every time it's slightly different. So the idea of bringing that back and playing it at shows just seemed like a really, really good idea, and it's a lot of fun to do. You know, like nobody expects somebody to play a zither with hammers, and I never quite know how it's going to go, you know, because I play it slightly differently each time.
Very cool. All right, well, hopefully we'll be seeing you in Wine Cellar or some other place around here sometime soon, and more records coming out.
Fantastic.
So thanks for coming up here and doing this.
You're welcome. I really enjoyed it.
And thanks for the record.
You're welcome. Cheers.
Have a good one.